I'm Nathan Frandino at the UT Knight Center for the International Symposium on Online Journalism, and I'm here with David Ho of the Wall Street Journal. David, thanks for joining me.
No problem.
I was wondering if you could first tell me, what is your role at the Wall Street Journal?
Well, I am the editor for mobile tablets and emerging technology. So I am the lead editor for our mobile platforms. I manage the mobile editorial team. And it's very much a job that blends the editorial, technology, and product aspects of it all into one.
Mm-hmm. So you deal with both the programming, the design, and also getting the content flow into the various products.
Very much. Overseeing sort of daily operational stuff, just like everything that we've been covering with everything happening in Boston, sort of guiding our mobile presentation and how we deliver this news on tablets, on smartphones, on a variety of different devices. But also working with designers, working with developers, very, very closely with them. I had experience with this in my own career. I was a developer before they started calling them developers. So I sort of get what they do, and it's really helpful to sort of get down with them and work very closely with what they do.
And you said during the presentation that your management put you all in a room for 6 weeks to sort of put together this iPad app and put together a new product. What were some of the main challenges that you encountered during that?
Oh wow! Aside from being locked in the windowless room for 6 weeks, well, there was a lot of secrecy about it because the iPad hadn't come out yet. But also, no one had ever seen an iPad before, or seen an iPad app or a tablet app before. It was starting from scratch. It was kind of a blank slate, and that was very empowering, and it was an incredible opportunity. But also, it was this challenge. What do we do? What should it be like? Should it be like a website? Should it be like a newspaper? Should it be something new and different? So we had to explore all those things, and there were a lot of obviously technology challenges in getting all that work done so incredibly fast. I mean, we had very strict deadlines about this design had to be done this day, and then the tech development had to be done on this day, and everything had to just click perfectly to make that really tight schedule. So there was a lot, but it's certainly one of the more memorable experiences of my career. For me, though, I think even harder than those 6 weeks were the kind of couple months that followed it, because when we first launched it, I was the only mobile editor, and running that app for those months when it was all kind of new, and it almost felt like it was held together with like duct tape and like Band-Aids and things. That was like just probably the hardest thing I've done, because it was 6-7 days a week, 18 hours a day, nonstop, working from home a lot of the time. And that's probably the hardest thing I've done.
And in a newsroom, oftentimes you've got, mostly in the past it was only journalists, reporters and photographers, and more recently more videographers. But now you're bringing programmers into the picture. And when you're discussing these plans for product development and your mission and everything like that, do you sort of have to retrain the mentality of some of the journalists who aren't used to thinking in terms of user experience and mobile development?
Well, having done both jobs, programmers and journalists think very differently, and they work at different time scales. See, when you're a journalist, everything is about now. It's about deadlines. It's about, your work needs to be done in a period of, I was a wire service reporter for a while, so even potentially seconds, minutes, the luxury of a print schedule, you have maybe hours. Not anymore, I don't think anybody has that anymore. But, and developers, though, tend to think in like longer time scales. This project is going to take X number of weeks or months or whatever. But there has to be a coming together there, because when you're dealing with news and the technology is so interwoven with that news, things have to move very, very fast. So it is a hard place for some journalists to go to sort of think in those terms. And also, developers and programmers tend to speak a different language than journalists. Journalists sort of rail against jargon, but of course, we have leads and nut graphs and kickers and things like that too. There's often like a translation role between the different parties here. So I've been spending a lot of time teaching journalists about mobile technology, and I've also been thinking about teaching some of our developers about journalism. But part of it, I think, is training the folks you have and looking for folks who can live in both worlds. When I hire mobile editors, I'm definitely looking for people that are comfortable with both skill sets. My deputy, she was a very experienced technology reporter, but she also has a degree in electrical engineering. And understands like sort of the ins and outs of this. So I mean, the folks are out there. So I mean, if you can like live in this place where you have not necessarily like hardcore coding skills, but if you have a very strong comfort level with technology, and you're a journalist, and you have news judgment and experience, I mean, I think that combination can work very well in where newsrooms are going today.
So definitely get literate in coding and technical aspects, but also be able to understand news value, news judgment, and have sort of your fingers in various different pots, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but the number one thing I would look for when hiring someone is news judgment, absolutely, because it's the one thing you can't teach somebody. You have to earn it. You have to just get it through experience. I mean, I can sit down with you and teach you HTML, the basics of it, to make a basic page in like half an hour. Not to belittle the work of developers. I mean, that's the more complex stuff is like really, really hard. But I mean, news judgment is something that no one can really teach you. So I look for that as like a primary thing. But as far as where, like, say, student journalists should go with this, you don't necessarily have to become a hardcore like coder. You don't need to know like Objective-C or something like that. I mean, it helps. It helps to have basic familiarity with some of this stuff. And in a lot of ways, building a web page is like storytelling. I mean, there's structure, there's certain certain elements that you put in certain places in order to lay it out. But you don't necessarily have to be, a programmer, but you need to understand the essentials of how the technology works and how people use the technology. I mean, that's really important. I mean, you can't be sort of apart from it. You have to use it as much as your readers use it. You can't just be cold on it. And frankly, the advice I give to people, because there was this long period, and it probably still exists, where like everyone's bosses were like, well, you have to blog and you have to tweet and you have to do all this stuff, and that's a lot of pressure, especially for reporters and journalists. I've done this work, and so I know it's like the response is like, well, I've got enough to do. I'm already like reporting the story. I'm already like having to shoot video for the story. I'm having to carry all this stuff around. So you have to do more stuff. I think for journalists who are like challenged by this, I think the real solution is that you have to make technology part of your life. It's not about your work. I mean, you have to make it part of what you do for yourself. So I mean, if you're being pressured that you have to do video, so like go and shoot your own video. Shoot video of your cats and put it on YouTube or something like that, or shoot your family and edit it together yourself. I mean, just do it for yourself and get comfortable with it. And then when you have to do it for work, it's not this. It's not so foreign. It's not this high pressure situation, right?
Excellent.